Hey, how's everyone doing today? So good to have you by. My name's Sarah, and I'm an intuitive energy reader. And today I decided I'm just going to kind of wing it. And there's been a few things on my mind lately, and I thought I would lay some cards out. And the cards that came out for me are reminiscent for my XJW. Deconstruction from Religion collective. Some of you may not know, but I was a Jehovah's Witness for 35 years, and then I left the religion, and I started this channel originally to speak to people who were leaving the Jehovah's Witness faith. And I met a lot of other people that were leaving religions, high control groups, cults, and met a lot of really great people. And then I took the channel a little bit differently, more toward the metaphysical kind of spiritual vein, because that's my channel. I can do what I want. So that's what I've done. And I've kind of turned it into a tarot reading channel, but it's more than that. It's a channel where I encourage people who just want to be their authentic selves to really embrace that aspect of themselves, however that looks. And for me, tarot and oracle cards and meditation, things like that, shamanic practices, those were the things that really turned my life around and helped me turn away from a life of addiction, of trauma, of deeply held beliefs that were really just not good for me. And so all of that to say, today I got a notification that I have spent 6 years on YouTube, and it just got me to thinking about, where I came from 6 years ago. And I thought I had a lot figured out. Boy, was I in for quite a shakeup, because at that time I was an atheist when I started this channel, and now I'm very much in connection with spirit and the things that are far larger than us. My wind chimes are going to be chiming, so I hope that's not too distracting. But anyway, the energy, as I was saying, is going to be for those of you who have left a high control religious group or a high control situation. So if that doesn't resonate for you, this is not your reading. This is definitely for my XJW, ex-Mormon, fill in the blank. If you've left something high control, this reading might be for you. So recently I traveled to Ohio, Mansfield, Ohio, and I visited the correction facility there that was the backdrop for the movie Shawshank Redemption. And we actually got to tour it. And if you can go there, you will be, I think it'll change a lot about the way you look at your own life. But it was a very haunting experience to go there. They opened up the facility during like Halloween, and they have a lot of different interesting exhibits and things like that. There's an electric chair on display, and it's just, after visiting there, I daily think about that jail, that place where they held young men, and because of various crimes and things that they had committed. But it was more of just how people over years have been in these situations where they have no control over their lives, right? You commit a crime, you go to jail, that's the punishment. For those of us who experienced living in a high control religious group, obviously it's a little bit different, but our authentic selves were kept in a cage. And it wasn't until I was 35 years old that I recognized that I had been in a cage for my entire life. I had been conditioned to believe certain things about the world around me, that it was wicked, that no one except for those inside of the religion were good enough for me to be in communication with, and everyone else needed to be cut out from my life. And so I likened visiting that jail to being in a jail, the religious experience that I had grown up with. And the card, as I was sitting down thinking about this is the card that came up. So it, of course, made me think of the jail that I just visited in Ohio, in Mansfield, Ohio. Notice it says incarceration, prison, justice, and punishment. Excuse me. Now, when I sat down to do this reading, this reading is so much different than the ones I normally do, just because I'm trying to kind of find my place on YouTube and the kind of readings that I'd like to bring forth. And I'm fortunate because at this point, I don't have many subscribers. I'm not monetized at this time, but hopefully soon, right? And I'm kind of trying to find my footing and trying to understand what kind of readings will resonate and that sort of thing. But what I always come back to is what resonates for myself. What are the kind of readings that I'd want to hear? And at this time in my life, and maybe many of you, you're going through cycles of a rebirth. You're leaving things behind that no longer fit you. And I see that the person I'm speaking to, you've got the high control group in your past. I don't think I'm speaking to someone who is just woken up to what things you can no longer allow your life path to be a part of. I hope I said that makes sense. And then church came up too. Spiritual sanctuary, sacred architecture. So yeah, I got, and then the Hierophant came out with the devil card, and they came out, I watched them as they fell to the floor. They were face up and then they went sideways and fell on the floor sideways. And as that happened, as I watched them fall, it made me think that that your views of the world's authority, of the authority you used to hold so dear, perhaps it was the Watchtower, Bible Tract Association, or whatever they call themselves nowadays, jw.org, maybe it was the LDS or the Amish or Scientology, whatever background you come from, that's what you held dear. And then you watched it spiral because you recognize that there was pure evil and control behind the reason why you were being held down. It's my experience that those with a lot of control, they make sure that they suppress those who are younger, who are weaker, who are maybe have more trauma. They're easier to control. And as I watched these cards just fall out of the deck into the floor, and I watched them, I got the message from my spirit team, you've broken free from this matrix. You're awake. You understand exactly what all of this is. I hope that you have made peace with the reason why this happened for you. Notice I said this happened for you, because we often get into a cycle where we believe that things happen to us, right? They happen to us. And we have to be careful to think that way, because we tend to get into a cycle where we believe that these things happen to us and now we are broken, or this is our thing that will identify us. And I went through that for a long time. That was my story. I lost my whole family. I lost everyone I cared about to this religion. And for a long time, that was my story. And then one day I woke up and I said, you know what? I don't like that story anymore because that's not who I am anymore. I'm not a victim any longer. But I had to get to a place where I recognized that about myself, that I was no longer a victim. I was no longer in that prison, right? I was free. I found my way out of the cage, right? And I found a lantern and I let it light my way. And that's what this reading is saying to me, is that some of you are ready to move forward. Maybe you're ready to leave this state of mind behind you. Maybe some of you are stuck watching videos, exiting, deconstruction videos. Nothing wrong with those, right? Those helped us leave toxic situations. They helped connect us with other people that were also going through what we were going through. So there was nothing wrong with watching those videos, but maybe we no longer need to. Maybe we're healthy enough to go out and do something that isn't related to our old story. Maybe you're ready to just find some inner peace within you. A lot of times we give other people free reign over our energy spaces. And what I mean by that is we'll listen to video after video after video of other people's opinions, but we don't sit with our own opinion and our own feelings. We don't sit in the silence long enough to understand how we're feeling, right? We're always wanting to hear what someone else has to say about us, what we should do, how we should think. And I hope this video is kind of just a little bit of a wake-up call. I've noticed that a lot of my messages lately have been disruptive. They're meant to shake people up and to kind of make people think. And I've lost some subscribers recently from some of my videos. And, I'm recognizing that my ego doesn't like it, but I also understand that some people just aren't ready to hear these really intense messages. And that's okay. But if you're still here, you're ready to move beyond this limited viewpoint of yourself. Your story doesn't have to be, I'm an ex Jehovah's Witness, I'm an ex Mormon or ex whatever. I lived in a cult. It's a fascinating topic to talk about at parties. Lots of people are super interested in hearing about that. But there comes a time where you're not really that person anymore. And maybe you really don't identify with it. It's just something you've always said because it felt like people might understand why you're a little awkward. It might make people understand why you are standoffish. If you tell them, hey, I was part of a high control group or a cult for my whole life, that's why I'm a weirdo. I mean, I've done it myself because I just never felt like I fit in to regular, normal society. And so I would often say, hey, I'm a weirdo because I was part of a cult for 35 years. It broke the ice, but I was always reinforcing that story. And after a while, I was like, I don't like that story anymore. And I'm sensing that some of you don't like it either. And you know that. It's time for you to make a new story for yourself. There's definitely this feeling of putting something to rest, letting something just kind of die down. Maybe you feel you've got closure now. I'm recognizing here with the energy that a lot of you have cut the cord from your past and you've moved on. You've even found some recognition for yourself. Perhaps you've gone back to school, you've gone to therapy, you're delving into other beliefs, other religions, other healing modalities that maybe have nothing to do with religion. Maybe you're exploring Gnosticism or some of the other spiritual faiths, because now you can, right? There's no one telling you you can't do those things. I'm finding you have peace. You've disarmed the fear. You're releasing the fear, I'm hearing, and you're stepping into your power, because now you have confidence that everything you were told about yourself, about the way the world was, you're recognizing that those were lies kept told to you to keep you small. Wind chime confirmation. So you're walking away from this old story, and what's on the horizon for you, it will be happiness and fulfillment, security, emotional stability, domestic harmony with that 10 of Cups card. Let's throw down a few more cards, shall we? Let's, yeah, because you had the 10 of Swords, so that tells me that the cycle's over. It's in the past. That's great. Yeah. And let's see here. Okay. Someone here has been working really hard to rebuild their life. You've made collaborations with others. You've made commitments to yourself that you will never allow yourself to fall into that kind of limiting beliefs ever again. You are going to be open-minded, because for so much of your life you were closed down, and you refused to hear other opinions. And maybe you had an experience, a spiritual awakening that forced you to snap out of it. Sometimes universe can send something our way that will shake us to the core. Yeah. You held on to this. Like, this was kind of, excuse me, maybe this was, I'm hearing you would, yeah, you would die for that message. Same. There was a time I would have died for that message too. I wouldn't have taken a blood transfusion, right? Because Jehovah's Witnesses, for a long time, didn't take blood transfusions of any kind, right? Or they changed their teachings back and forth. Certain times you could take a blood transfusion or parts of one, or an organ transplant. Other times in their history you couldn't. Just kind of depended. You better not get into a really bad accident where you needed a blood transfusion on the wrong side of the timeline, right? I don't mean to laugh. It's just, it's so frustrating. Yeah, you were tired of giving so much of your life, being asked to give more, and then never quite feeling like it was enough. And it was round and round and round and round, right? Well, hey, if you guys are still here, clearly I'm speaking to someone from a path that was similar to mine. Some other messages that came through, the person that this message would resonate with, maybe you were brought up to be quiet and submissive, and maybe the truth was that finding your authentic voice is what actually helped you find that balance in your life where you were able to feel like you could be more in your feminine energy. Maybe you really struggled with that toxic masculinity, that uh, patriarchy kind of atmosphere that most of us grew up in. Um, even if you're a masculine or identify as a male, um, you might know what this is like. If there were people who had privileges over you, and because you couldn't, maybe measure up to their standards, you were not permitted to be part of the group, something like that. Maybe some of you had to stay in the religion for a really long time, wide awake. In the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, we called it physically in, mentally out, PMO. And so maybe some of you spent a long time sitting there week after week, year after year, knowing the truth about the truth, and yet you stayed because you didn't want to lose your family or your friends, or maybe it was your job because that was related to being maybe you worked for someone who was also part of the organization. And of course, place this anywhere it might resonate. I'm getting that you were in trouble quite a bit with the church authority, or the elders, or the brothers that were in higher authority than you were. Maybe you were abused in some way and it was covered up or ignored. There was no resolution. Someone here might be getting a message or a letter. A message, like maybe an instant message. Someone you haven't heard from in a long time might just all of a sudden instant message you. Or call. Maybe you don't recognize the number and you let it go to voicemail, and lo and behold, it's someone you have not heard from in a really long time. Maybe it's a sibling or a friend that you had to shun when you were an indoctrinated member. And maybe they're reaching out to you because maybe you've posted something on social media and they're so happy to reach out to you because it's been years. That'd be really great to like connect with someone, right? And you know what? It's okay to say, I'm so sorry I did that to you. I didn't know any better. And they're going to understand. This person's going to forgive all of that. So don't worry about that. That's a specific message for someone. Some of you maybe ran away from home when you were younger, or you were 18 and the day you turned 18, you were gone. Some others, maybe you were put out because you were disfellowshipped, and your parents took care of you, but maybe you were baptized as a very young person and you turned away from what the rules were. You were in trouble a lot. Maybe you were removed from the congregation, but you still were a minor, so your parents took care of you, and then maybe they put you out because you were just like, no, I'm not going back. That's for someone else. These are specific. So what outcome, Spirit, will they have going forward? Thank you so much for spending your time here with me. One fell on the floor. Okay. The numbers 1111 might be significant. The number 4. Someone here is finding their community elsewhere. They're leaving behind that victimhood mindset, right? Just like we were talking about earlier. You're leaving that trapped, restricted feeling in the past. Um, yeah, you're building a new community. Um, I see here that you're bringing balance into some kind of partnership or relationship that you might be having. Maybe it's even with spirit. Maybe you're finding more spirituality in your life. You're putting down arms. You no longer want to dispute and argue with people. Maybe you spent a lot of time arguing with other people from your past group that you were trying to get them to see how maybe they were misled. A message is coming through to recognize that people can't understand until they're ready. No matter what you might say, it might be the most ironclad argument, but until they're absolutely ready to hear it, they can't. They just cannot. It's so frustrating, so very frustrating. But as someone who had, a channel and tried desperately to make people understand me and my viewpoint, I think it harmed more than it helped. And that might be a little bit of advice for someone, that when you're forcing something, it's actually repelling. It's just that law of attraction. When you detach from something that you desperately want, that's when it comes toward you. But when you're chasing after something, hoping, desperation, that is repelling any kind of forward movement. I know that's really hard to hear, but take it from me. I honestly can say that when I stopped chasing things, that's when they came to me. And that's your message too. Because the last card that came out was the Empress. The Empress is the energy of receiving, right? You have set yourself up for something awesome here. So if you can continue putting yourself first in this Empress kind of energy where you're allowing things to come to you, you're going to experience just so much more abundance in your life. And Spirit wants to give you that reward because that was a huge thing that you just went through. It was probably years. Maybe you're still going through a lot of trauma. Hopefully you're going into therapy or doing something that you're just not sitting in that victimhood. And I see with the cards, you're beyond that. So maybe now it's your time to help others, however that looks, right? I hope that this message resonated for some of you. And if it did, I hope that you will let me know about it down below. And I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye.